that mean? It means when you're really, really good at something, sometimes your short-term incentives to do that thing, in this case, will be at odds with your long-term incentives, which is to elevate the team. So how does that play out for the Wizards? Stephen A., John Wall, they run the high pick and roll. If they get nothing out of it, they reset and try it again because he's such a fantastic, unstoppable ISO player. He knows they're likely to get something the next time they run the pick and roll. The problem is that's essentially 2 players on offense, 3 players essentially shut out of the offense. They're less incentivized to move. Everything kind of stagnates. What happens when John Wall's not there? They don't get anything out of the pick and roll. They swing it baseline. Now the guy on the baseline has a wide open three-pointer, or if the defense comes toward him, now you got a guy cutting in the middle, whether it's Gortat or Oubre or whoever. And so the entire offense works better. What I learned from last night is when John Wall comes back, he has to learn how to trust his teammates. That's a chemistry issue. He has to understand that the short-term incentive, when the high pick and roll doesn't work, is not just to reset and do it again. Not just to pull harder. We see this with some singularly talented superstars like Russell Westbrook, even LeBron this year. When things don't go their way, they pull even harder. They try to carry the load even more rather than relaxing and trusting their teammates. Can John Wall learn that? It's a tactical adjustment. If you're not getting anything out of the pick and roll, move the ball, get out of it. Don't just try the same thing again and again. And if he can do that, the Wizards are live. But Stephen A., the fact that he and Bradley Beal have been there as long as they have together already with basically the same nucleus, and they keep hitting that wall, tells me that it's not going to happen, that there's a chemistry issue, and that they're going to have to choose between John Wall and Bradley Beal and make a move.
Well, I'm not sure it's going to come to that. I don't disagree with any of your points, but I'm not sure that the final point is necessary. I don't think it's going to come to that. I think we need to wait to see what John Wall is going to do. Here's the reality of the situation. Last night, we saw the value of a John Wall because there was no one that could make a play. Bradley Beal had played the night before against Milwaukee. He was completely exhausted before the game. They didn't get in until about 3 o'clock in the morning. He barely got any sleep. He was absolutely positively exhausted, but he went out there and he played and couldn't really get anything done for the most part. He was virtually non-existent through the first 3 quarters. So we got to take into account that particular situation. As a result, Satoransky couldn't get anything done. Otto Porter had no help. Kelly Oubre needs to become a bit ambidextrous and learn to use his right hand more. Don't get me started with Marcin Gortat and his level of impotence thus far. He's got to step his game up. But it really showed the value of a John Wall because John Wall is one of the great two-way players in the game. Is he a superstar? No. But is he a star? Yes, he is. And he is sorely needed. Here's what we need to understand about John Wall. When he comes back, all the pressure is on his shoulders. All of it. Because this team leads the league in assists since he went down. Now, I want to emphasize this because I was saying this to a couple of people last night in the nation's capital, Max. And I want to emphasize this. If you are Kobe or Harden or Michael Jordan at the 2-guard spot, if you're LeBron or Bird or somebody at the small forward spot, or the power forward spot with Tim Duncan, or a center spot, and the team looks more unselfish and they're looking more selfless and sharing the basketball and things of that nature. While you're gone, it's not a big deal. It's a given because you being the center of attention that comes with it. But when that happens, after they lose their point guard, that's an indictment against the point guard. Because the point guard's job is supposed to be to make sure that you're excelling in exactly that area. And to excel in exactly that area without the star point guard means that while the point guard was there, he felt either A, he had to make the plays himself, or B, he didn't have confidence in the guys that he's playing with, which speaks to the level of friction that was reported to have existed. So when John Wall comes back, all of the pressure is going to be on his shoulders to not disrupt the apple cart per se and to really vibe with Bradley Beal, who has proven what a star he is. If that doesn't happen, everyone is going to be looking to John Wall, and he is the one that's going to get blamed. And only then will we know whether he needs to stay or go. We do not know that yet.
But when you say all the pressure's on his shoulders, the reaction of some in the media, including you, Stephen, I'll use you as the foremost example, that when a player hears the pressure's on me from the media, when he hears it even buzzing in the locker room around the team, a great player with unique gifts will pull even harder. He'll try to take it into his own hands because in the short term, in terms of like right at that play, at that moment, who's most likely to score? Who's most likely to make something good happen? The best player. And that is counterproductive to the team because he winds up doing more, over dribbling. His usage rate goes up. Yeah. Everyone else stands now getting cold. By the way, this even happened. Chris Paul is playing phenomenally well with the Rockets right now. But this happened with Chris Paul at times with the Clippers, particularly before Doc got there. Over dribbling. Not that he meant to do anything wrong. He meant to help his team win. We see this with Westbrook, even at times with Kyrie, even this season. Uniquely gifted point guards who have incredible handles and can score and can run the pick and roll, their short-term incentive is constantly, let me try it again, let me pull harder. When in fact what John Wall has to do is relax, take his hands off the reins a little bit, trust his teammates more. That's where the pressure really is.
Notable facts that need to be pointed out. There's a difference between Chris Paul and John Wall in this regard. Chris Paul not only had the ball in his hands all the time, he was asked to do so. He had begged Doc Rivers and the Clippers years in advance to get him some help, to get him off the ball so he didn't have that responsibility, and it was never supplemented. He never got it. J.J. Redick wasn't that help. Wesley Johnson wasn't that help. Austin Rivers was not that help. So Chris Paul constantly had to do that. In Washington's case, John Wall doesn't always have to do that. He chooses to. Not to mention the fact that outside of basketball, Max, here's where it gets so dicey, where we've got to look at John Wall with a keen eye. You have players who believe in themselves and believe that he was holding them back. Whether it's true or not remains to be seen. But in his absence, they won 10 of their 13 games before last night. And they clearly were on a mission to prove that they were better than what some, including John Wall, may have thought they were. So as a result of it, when he comes back, not just for basketball reasons, but for team chemistry, in an effort to keep the team together and aligned and non-disrupted, he has to make sure he modifies his game to what they're doing rather than the other way around. Because if it doesn't happen, they're going to turn against him. That's the problem.
But I get that. I understand you're explaining team dynamics and stuff you're actually hearing and things that are actually going on. But this is not a new phenomenon. You mentioned when off guards or small forwards or what have you or do this sort of thing, it's no big deal. Or other guys step up and the team assists go up, no big deal because everyone knows they have to step up, the star goes down. But when the point guard, who's responsible for sharing the ball, goes down and team assists go up, then eyebrows start to raise. But the fact of the matter is, you mentioned Michael Jordan. He was often the primary ball handler. You know, he was obviously the highest usage player, and he had to learn to trust his teammates. Even though they were far inferior to him, even though on any given play, the sense for him was, our percentage goes down of success if I do trust them, he had to learn to do it. Part of that is having good teammates, and part of that is the confidence instilled and the motion in the offense when your best player gives up the ball. This is nothing new. John Wall is just the latest example, and he happens to be a point guard, of a guy who has to learn that lesson and fast because the playoffs are coming up.
Yep, we're out of time, guys. Wizards are just one game behind the Cavs right now. Still to come, would Doc Rivers be a